Good morning and welcome back to my channel. We all slept in a little bit. Well, let me rephrase that. I slept in a little bit this morning. The kiddo got up at his normal time, but we have a teacher work day today. So we're getting a bit of a slower start, which is actually kind of nice sometimes because in the mornings we generally have to like race around to get out the door. But I am getting a little bit of like actual work done. Work from a job, and then we're gonna get ready, and I am actually dropping some food off for a friend who just had a baby, which is very exciting, and making headway, my friends, on the manuscript. We're moving and grooving, and that feels really good. Not so moving and grooving on the marketing stuff. It's not as comfortable. Like, I just need to get over it, and I need to figure out what feels comfortable for that with me, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it, but I am so grateful to be writing again. I forget every single time how much I love it, and the story is just like flowing right out of me, which feels great. So we're gonna get some stuff done, and yeah, we'll just kind of see where the day takes us. I'm just about done getting ready, honestly still in my pajamas, but my makeup is mostly done, my hair is mostly done. I wanted to show you my new favorite thing. You guys know how I feel about lash extensions. I have like the most baby lashes on the planet. Even the most expensive high-end mascara really cannot do much with the lashes I've got. I'm okay with that. I've made my peace with that. But because of that, I like to have really like low-key lash extensions on. Like, I'm not the girl that wants like, I don't want to take flight. I just want to add like a little ba-boom to my eyes because they don't do it on their own. And while I love a lash extension, and I have found several from Amazon that are really inexpensive. I've got glue that works really well. I'm happy with the like system I've got. I decided to try those silly magnetic lashes that we're all seeing all over TikTok, and I truly thought that they were going to be slightly gimmicky, and they're not. I went with the Wasado Savannah lash, which is like classified as like their most natural lash, which I want. And again, because I have baby little lashes, I actually trimmed them down a little bit because I have hooded eyes. And so even like a really natural lash, if it's too long, can look a little too much on my eye. So I honestly just trimmed them down a little bit. This is the eyelash fixer. Is that what it's called? Is this necessary? I don't know, but it came for free when I bought them. So I've just got them all loaded up on this little doohickey, and I'm gonna try to do this where I can see what I'm doing and also show you, but I just want to get the placement right. You guys, look at that. Can you see? Am I in focus? Potentially not. The main reason I love these so much, aside from the fact that they look really natural, is as much as I love an eyelash extension, I love like full on washing my face at the end of the night and get a lot of like peace out of that experience. I don't know how to explain it, but there's just something really comforting in like splashing your whole face with water. And obviously when you have eyelash extensions on, you have to be a little bit more careful about how you're doing that. All right, so I've got them all loaded. And they're on, just like that. It's not gonna start right away. It's gonna be loud. I don't want it to scare you when it starts.
Let's do two.
No, only one.
This way.
Other way.
Oh.
There you go. Yep. And drop it in. Yep. And then pull down. Pull hard. I don't have any made right now. No, I already did it on yours. There you go. Perfect. All right. This is the bodies. Yes, sir. This cat, he has a haircut. He really likes getting a haircut, but I'm not very good at it. I do it myself. And so he looks like he's homeless a lot of the time. He's not, he's very loved. I'm just not a trained cat groomer. All right, so I have a story that I want to share with you guys. I've never told this story ever online. And in fact, I've not really even shared this story with people in my life because it's one of those stories that it was such a painful experience that it's hard for me to tell it for fear that it would ever be something that people would associate with me or think was true. But I think it's important to share because this weekend at church, our pastor was talking about like the ways in which God shows up in your life and how sometimes those stories are powerful enough to help others see where God is showing up in their own life where they may not have noticed before. And this is definitely one of those stories where it looks like it was really awful, and it was. Like, it was truly one of the most like disorienting experiences I've ever had in my entire life, and I still really can't wrap my head around what the heck happened as much as I've tried to. In fact, I don't really let myself think about this very often at all because again, I like get stuck in this cycle of trying to like dispel it or like offer some type of proof that it didn't happen. But it's one of those things, like I watch a lot of true crime, and the story that I often see like repeating on itself with like innocent defendants. I was not tried in a court of law. This did not go anywhere like that. It could have, I suppose. Is that like, how do you prove you didn't do something? All right, let's set the scene. For those of you that don't know anything, if you've just clicked on this video for the very first time, I have always had a desire to like pursue a creative endeavor. For me, that was writing. I've known I've wanted to be a writer since I was a kid, and I then pursued that in college and then pretty much took every other job that had absolutely nothing to do with writing ever since. And growing up and then into my early adulthood, the jobs I typically took were nanny jobs. I babysat all through high school and through college. I had summer nanny gigs, and then I had like real adult nanny jobs where like I was a grown woman, married already, and that was like my main gig was nannying. It was always under this pretense in my mind anyway that I was nannying so it wouldn't take up my creative mind and I would be able to write like while the children were napping or when I got home because I wouldn't be completely drained. That did not happen. Okay, I didn't. It was like I was doing this because of that reason, but I wasn't holding up my end of the deal where like I took this kind of job to support essentially this creative endeavor that I wanted to do. It's not that I didn't like nannying. It just wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that's perfectly okay to not want to do it with my life. I was good at it. I would argue that the families that I worked for were grateful that I was a part of their life for the time that I was with them. I took it very seriously and but I will agree that it was something I often ran to because they were easy jobs for me to get because I had a lot of experience and I enjoyed being around kids, and kids felt comfortable around me. Parents generally felt comfortable around me. So they were jobs that I knew if things got tough, I could take. And I was not pursuing a writing career necessarily at this time, although I suppose it was still kind of writing, but at this point in time in my life, I was running a company with my good friend. It was like a creative services business where we were providing SEO rich content for their websites, and that often included like blogging. So I suppose it was like a writing career. It just wasn't like writing books, if that makes sense. And my husband and I had just moved into a house in Charlotte, and things got tight for a hot minute. Now, if you know anything about running a business, the business can be doing really well. That does not mean that you personally are flush with cash. And so in a bit of a panic, and really, I'm looking back on it, it was silly. I didn't even need to do it, but the fear got a hold of me. I went right back to my old faithfuls and I snagged a temporary nanny job, and it was going to be perfect because it was just in between the time when the mom was going back to work to when their daycare spot opened. They had an older child and then an infant, and I would be home with the infant all day while the mom went back to work. And I think the job was supposed to be like 12 weeks. It wasn't going to be very long. And the family was lovely. Their home was lovely. The little kid was lovely. They had an adorable little girl, and it just, the family was a good fit. And their infant was a little boy who was just very well behaved. I mean, he was an infant. He was joyful, and he ate and he slept and we played, and that was on repeat, right? And I literally only looked for that job and took that job because the fear gripped my heart. And I mean by that, like financially, it gripped my heart. And so I ran back again to like what I know, and that's what I did. And I don't even remember how long I had been doing this. I don't feel like it was very long at all. But the mom and I had like even chatted about like church stuff, and they trusted me wholeheartedly, which I truly appreciate. Like now being a parent, I know the weight of that kind of trust to put into somebody that essentially you're just kind of meeting for the first time. But I feel like they looked at me and saw that I'm an authentic and honest person. And because it was an all-day thing, they did allow me to have a car seat in case we wanted to go like to a park, or if I had an errand I needed to run or whatever it was. And on this particular day, they had given me their paycheck and I needed to grab lunch. And so in between the kiddos' bottle and his nap time, we hopped in the car, we went to the bank, I ran through Chick-fil-A and got home. I got the baby down for his nap, and then I went and ate my lunch at the kitchen table. And while I was eating lunch at the kitchen table, the mom came home, which was kind of surprising, but okay, it's her house, like she's allowed to be there. And she had this look on her face that instantly like gripped my stomach. Like I just knew something was wrong, and being the empathetic person that I was, I like immediately jumped into like, what's wrong? Like, what can I do? Are you okay? What's going on? And I wish I could tell you exactly how this all went down, but she basically said something along the lines of like, my husband is on his way home. And I wish I could tell you like she told me this in this moment, or maybe she waited until her husband got home. But the long and short of it was that their neighbor called her and told her that I had left the house without the baby. And her saying those words, my first question would be like, why would I even do that? Like, what benefit would it have been to me? And as somebody who's been around babies my whole life, like bringing a baby with me to run a couple of errands wasn't I feel like it would have been harder, and maybe that isn't true, I guess, but like in my mind, I feel like it would have been harder to leave the house without the child than to just put the child in the car seat. And he even had like one of those like click base car seats. Like I truly just had to put him in the infant seat and like click him into my car. And then to get home, I even have like, this is what, like when they brought this up to me, I even like went so far as to be like, okay, this is exactly what I did. And like, this is how we got into the house. And I also said, I'm like, don't you have cameras? I wish that this would have happened, if it were to have happened at all. I wish it would have happened in like today's day and age. This was about 10 years ago. But that was my first question, is like, don't you have cameras? Because I assumed in every house I ever worked in that there were cameras. One, just because I would expect that out of a family for their own protection, but also as a person that's being employed in their home, that could protect me too, right? So I just always operated under the assumption that there were cameras everywhere. Even if it was like a doorbell camera where you could like catch me leaving the house and coming back in with the baby in the car seat. Like I couldn't understand why their neighbor would have said that, what they saw that made them think that. And then, you know, the dad's talking to me at one point. He's like, we're not going to do anything to like ruin your life or your career. And I'm like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the fact that you have this fear in your heart right now that you think somebody left your child at home. And I need you to understand that didn't happen. Like, it did not happen. And obviously, like, we were parting ways. I understood completely. And in fact, even a couple of days later, I realized I still had like their mirror in my car for the infant seat. So I like mailed that back to them. But right when I left their house, I went to the bank and I went to Chick-fil-A, 2 places that I was hoping would have some type of video evidence that the child was in my car. I had to wait a really long time at the bank and they were able to pull up the footage. I wasn't allowed to look at it myself, but they were allowed to look at it and like report back to me. And it was not even for my sake. I wanted to be able to like point the parents in the direction of that so that they could have like comfort to know that this didn't actually happen and that fear that they feel at this moment is for nothing. Like, I truly don't understand why the neighbor would have even said that. But the bank, unfortunately, the footage they had of me, because I went to like the drive-through, was just my window. So they couldn't see the back window, which is where the child's car seat was located. And then Chick-fil-A, I didn't go to like the speaker box where there probably was a camera. I spoke to somebody because Chick-fil-A has, and I went to the person that I had seen and I was like, please tell me. And I was so unremarkable. So like, why would this one 16-year-old kid, you know, like remember this one car? But I was like, I came here earlier. Do you by chance at all recall that there was a child in the backseat of my car? And they couldn't remember it. The mom did eventually email me a few weeks later and just sort of like apologized to me and like arranged to send me my last check. But it's still something to this day that I really went through it after that experience. And it happened like right around Easter, and my mom was like comforting me in the fact that like even Jesus was falsely accused of something. But like, if you've ever been like falsely accused of something that not only you didn't do, but like something you would never do. I don't even leave my kid in the car to go. We have like a mail room in our neighborhood. So like, I don't have a mailbox at the end of my driveway, and it's not one of those like outdoor mailboxes where like you have in an apartment complex. It's like an actual building that you have to walk into, like a post office essentially. I don't even leave my child in the car to run in to get my mail, and my mailbox is the first row of mailboxes at the front door. Like, I could literally leave the door open and open my mailbox and get my mail and run back to the car. I don't even do that. So it was so outside of who I am as a person to have done what I was being accused of. And it like sunk so deep into my soul that I made like a statement at that I was like, I will never, under any circumstances, be in a situation where I am being left responsible for somebody else's children ever again. And I came to realize over time that I actually think it was God that did that to like save me from myself, basically. Because when you have a safety net, when you have something that you can easily run to that's gonna catch you when things get a little bit hard, when you're chasing something that you are being called to do, it takes you off the path that you're supposed to be on. And I truly believe that I was using nannying like as a crutch, and that crutch was keeping me from moving in the direction that I was supposed to be going in. I wish it would have maybe been released from my grasp in a less painful way, but scripture that really helped me kind of like understand, and not even really understand it because I still don't think I understand it, of like why that happened or how it happened, but offered me comfort as I was trying to heal from it, was the passage of the brook drying up. I have to look this up because I don't know my Bible backwards and forwards. Hold on a moment. Oh, my battery's gonna die. 1 second. Okay, so the passage is from 1 Kings 17, 1-7, and it's about the story of Elijah, who during the drought, I'm having to look, God told Elijah to go to a certain brook, and he had to trust the call, and he went there, and once he was there, the birds brought him bread and meat during the time that he was there. Now, after a while, this provision that God was providing, the brook dried up because there had been no rain. And so it was imperative that Elijah then trust the next steps in this process and to know where God was going to have him go next. And in fact, I feel like, if I can remember this correctly, I feel like that got brought to my attention by a Rick Warren Daily Hope podcast that I was listening to in that period of time. That was a season of my life where I was reading my Bible every single morning before this had even happened. And part of my Bible time was a Rick Warren podcast. Now, I don't know anything about Rick Warren himself, so if he is problematic, I don't know. It was just a way for me to get into the Word in the morning. And I enjoyed his stories, and he's one of the few pastors that has like an easy to consume podcast. And I really do believe that nannying for me was the brook. And it was like what I like to call like a lifeboat, right? Like we're supposed to hop into a lifeboat to get us from one place to another. But the problem happens when we start to rely on the lifeboat and we don't want to get out at the next destination. And I feel like I really treated nannying like a lifeboat I wasn't getting out of. And it was honestly yanked out of my life in a way that I have a visceral reaction to the idea of ever being in charge of somebody else's children ever again. And I need to like stress this as hard as I possibly can. What I was being accused of did not happen. And I to this day wish that there had been video evidence to prove otherwise. But again, how do you prove something that you didn't do? I do at this point believe, and once I've received that email from the family, I do believe that they came to realize that it really hadn't happened. Because I can tell you as a parent, if I had believed that somebody had left my child, somebody that I trusted had left my child alone to like go grab lunch or like deposit a check, I would be pursuing legal action. Like that would not be a question in my mind. Obviously I was not a parent at that time, but I took my job very seriously, and that would not, even if I didn't have a car seat available to me, I would have either just not eaten lunch or I would have eaten something in their house. Like it wasn't like I was in an office building where there was no food. There were options if I needed them. I had the option. I had the car seat. I brought the child with me. And because I know I brought the child with me and I was accused of something awful anyway, I will not, under any circumstances, be in a situation where I'm being paid to watch somebody else's children. Now I have like, since having my son, we've been in situations where like someone needs to run to the grocery store and I've got the kids here and everyone's playing. That's a totally different scenario. It's like a totally trusted situation with an established relationship with people. So anyway, so sometimes God shows up in your life in a way that doesn't really make a lot of sense in the moment. I kind of look at the situation where like God had to break my heart in order to fix me and keep me on the right path, because I don't see myself ever having released myself from that path on my own. And so while it was extremely painful and still something that is really uncomfortable for me to even like think about or talk about, I was just sort of convicted during church on Sunday that I needed to show up here and tell this story. So if you've ever been in a situation where something really unfair or just heartbreaking is happening to you and you can't really wrap your head around why, I would encourage you to kind of zoom out if you can. When the time is right, you gotta mourn, you gotta go through the whole process, right? But I hope at some point you're able to zoom out a little bit and kind of look at it through a different lens. I've told you guys before that I like to look at life like a paint by numbers. And so sometimes when you're in like the really dark moments of your life, you're like, why am I in the darkness? Why is this so black? Why can't I see any light anywhere nearby? And then when you zoom out and you realize the big picture of your life, it wouldn't look as beautiful without that particular shading. And so this was definitely like a dark spot in my life, but I see how it got me where I needed to go to get me to where I am now. It's a little coffee chat for today, and I need to go take my kiddo to my husband's football practice before he loses his mind. The getting dark early is really messing with my head, because in my mind I should already be in bed and be going to sleep, but I do have words that I need to get down in order to meet my goal for the day. So I'm finishing out my day by writing, which, like I mentioned earlier, is really just it brings me so much joy, but it also just like brings life back into my soul, which feels really good. I am at 46,448 words for this manuscript. My goal is about 70,000. Now keep in mind, I do have quite a bit that needs to be slightly revised because, like I mentioned in a couple of videos ago, I'm going in a different direction with the book, but a lot more of it is usable than I actually thought it was. So I'm gonna try to finish out this goal for the day, and that's gonna do it for today. I'm still really like, after sharing that story earlier, like all afternoon, I just prayed about it a lot because immediately after I turned off the camera, I was like, nope, we are not putting that on the internet. We're not doing it. And I still kind of feel that way. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do it anyway, but I hope that story can be used for good in some way for you and offer some perspective in how God will use something intentionally to hurt you, to kind of pull you out of something that you wouldn't have pulled yourself out of. And sometimes it doesn't look at all like you thought it might. So for me, the brook dried up and it moved me in a different direction, and I won't ever go back to that brook. So onwards and upwards, and case in point, I'm sat here, I'm writing the third book that I'll be publishing soon, which honestly, I thought that I would only ever publish one, call that life goal check, and move on with my life, but I'm very happy to be here. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you guys for being here. And if you resonated with this content at all, or you just feel like we could be friends, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, comment down below, and let me know if and how the brook ever dried up for you and what that moved you into or pulled you out of. And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Bye.